Going on, everybody? Today we are talking about the Netflix show Adolescence and why you need to watch the show. I will say this, I'm definitely going to hit into spoilers. I'm going to start off on non-spoilers and then I'll make it abundantly clear when I do head into the spoiler territory, especially if you do plan on watching the show. There's some things I can easily talk about that are great, but there's going to be a lot more nitty-gritty things that need to be talked about. And that'll be in the second half because, like I said, it kind of spoils the show a little bit, but at the same time, it's a good cultural conversation anyway. So hopefully you guys are into that kind of stuff. And if you are, sub to the channel and who knows, maybe we got some other fun videos to come. So Adolescence, first and foremost, one of the very first things I noticed about the show, and I noticed it in episode 1, is they film the entire episode in one shot. In one shot. And, I will say this. Typically, when productions do a one-shot take for any scene, it's very difficult. It's a big challenge. The longer the scene, the harder it is. Because, God forbid, somebody messes up along the way. You got to go all the way back to the beginning, reset everything, and do it again. So, mind you, episodes are around an hour long, right? So, roughly like an hour, like 50-ish minutes or so. And that's a long time and a lot of moving pieces because they're not typically just stagnant. They're moving. They're literally going from location to location, but still filming all the while, which I just thought was absolutely phenomenal. Just crazy. And like such an uphill battle for, I hate to say it, for just some show. You know what I mean? So first off, that was awesome. The acting is incredibly well done if you're into that kind of stuff. It's not like a very fast-paced show. It's definitely dialogue-driven. So if you're looking for a more entertaining show, like, something with some action in it, this isn't for you. This is definitely way more of a trying to piece together what's going on, Like, you're only given certain amounts of information, and you kind of have to figure out as the show progresses what's going on, and then things become more clear and answers are given and yada yada. But yeah, it definitely pulls for an interesting show. And then, like I said, the acting was incredibly well done. Particularly, I think the boy who plays the main character, Boy, he is actually, what's his name? Hold on. So I mean, the character's name is Jamie, but the actor, his name is Owen Cooper. Dude, this kid crushes it. Now, like I said, it's nothing particularly crazy, but like there's a lot of dialogue. And for those of you who don't know, actually, I should say, I was trying to be an actor myself before I got into the YouTube stuff, and I'm still auditioning for things here and there and whatnot and trying to make that a reality, but it's really tough. It's really, really tough to memorize dialogue like that. It's especially hard filming a scene when it's a couple of minutes long. So the fact that it's like there's certain shots where like, he might not be in it for the full 50 minutes, but like, or an hour, but he's in for a lot of it. And you're like, dude, like it's just impressive. It really is. It's well written and it's well done. And in case you were wondering, I did do a little bit of research before watching the show. Or actually, sorry, before filming this video after watching the show. This isn't based on any particular story. It is based off of a growing trend that was happening. The show takes place in London. England. Excuse me. London's a city, not the country. It takes place in England. I forgot which city, so sorry about that. All you Brits who are watching, so my apologies. But yeah, it takes place over in England, and there was apparently a pretty big knifing incidents that were going on around the time. So it kind of is based off a little bit of that, a little bit of social media kind of stuff, and then just the general coming of age and dealing with things such as bullying and whatnot, besides murder. So yeah. All right, I think at this point I am going to start to head into spoiler territory. So I will put a nice big old thing up here being like, spoiler alert, because we're hitting spoil time. But yeah, spoilers from this point on. So like I said, this does dive into the story of a boy who is arrested right at the beginning of the show in accusations of murdering a girl in his school, stabbed to death. And you kind of find out about it slowly but surely, the fact that he did it, right? I will say one of the things that I do like about the show is you really are not knowing a lot of the details that are going on, and you actually kind of follow the police's ideas of what's going on a little bit stronger. But as they learn more and more, they start to realize, like, oh, their immediate ideas of what was going on are completely wrong, you know, because they're dealing with this younger generation who are on social media. They're using emojis to talk to each other that are essentially have codes to them. And when they thought this girl was being nice to the boy, Jamie, she wasn't. You know, she was calling him an incel, calling him like red pilled, like the podcast that we were talking about in my relationship video. If you guys watch that, it's something that I'm actually pretty passionate about talking about, because I think those podcasts are an absolute abomination to young men. I think it's horrifyingly toxic. I think that the ideas that they spout out can be terribly dangerous. In fact, this show is quite literally embodying that thought process of how dangerous these can be, because unfortunately this happens. You know, there are people who hear things on the internet and they take it to heart and they say, like, yeah, I'm all for this, I fully believe this, and sometimes it leads them to do something absolutely outlandish and crazy, such as stabbing a girl to death. You know, I will say this off the top of my head, I am not, actually, I just shouldn't say off the top of my head, but just in general, just a general warning, I am not the end-all be-all of knowing everything about this topic, all right? I'm coming into it from a slightly educated point of view. I studied psychology in college. I do love thinking about the way people think. It fascinates me. I am not a professional. So, you know, take everything I say with a grain of salt, because that is what it is. So, when it comes to these red pill kind of things, I can't necessarily say I know for fact that there are that many documented cases. I've definitely heard of one or two in the past. Again, I couldn't pull them up for you. I could probably do some research into it and find them, but I don't particularly know. However, even if it doesn't lead to deaths, I can tell you this, it leads to a lot of negative interactions between people. In fact, like I said in those relationship videos, I think it's one of the bigger issues with the dating pool these days is you got these red pills boys out here who are going on talking about women and just saying awful, deplorable things. And then honestly, too, if we're being absolutely honest, there are also girl podcasts who are saying, like, we don't need men and all this kind of stuff. And the shitty part about it is how they essentially kind of fan the flame, and the flame keeps growing and growing and growing, and then everything burns down, and everyone's like, well, what happened? It's your fault. You were fanning the flame. It's like, no, you were also fanning the flame. It's like, no, you were fanning the flame. You did this. You did this. And it's like, well, at the end of the day, nobody did anything to stop it. So that is where I kind of stand on this. I will say, for this show in particular, it is very clearly obvious to me that this is pointing to the men. Which honestly, it is something I think as a man myself needs to be addressed way more prevalently than it currently is. You know, I really do think that people should have their podcast taken away. I think if you're spouting out stuff where you're saying, like, women need to be in the kitchen and they need to be subservient to you and all this kind of shit, it's like, it just is like, I don't know. Like, my thoughts on it are tough, because it's like, how did you get to that point where you thought, yeah, that's right, this is the right thought process? You know, I will say, like, maybe I was brought up the right way. Maybe I just was lucky and I got a good head on my shoulders, but I don't understand how anybody can do that kind of stuff. And honestly, too, it's not just men to women. It's not just women to women. You know, it's not men to men. It's not women to women. You know, it's in every facet. Like, even, you know, take for example racism. I don't get it. I don't understand how you can look at somebody else and be like, you are worse than me because you're not the same as me. You know what I'm saying? I don't get it. And I think that's probably why psychology fascinates me, because I don't think like that. And yet there are thousands and thousands of people across the world who do think like that. And it's just like, how did we get there? Right? So I will say I love the fact that this show is out here. It's causing people to think about all this stuff. And honestly, it should be something that you should be considering thinking about as well. Whether or not you're a boy or a girl, or you're a grown man or a grown woman, or you're somewhere in between, you know, with all the different gender identities and whatnot. Every single person has some sort of relationship with the people around them, to the point where it is valuable to make sure that we are, you know, raising up our youth the right way. I'd say, you know, I don't know exactly what the right way is. Everybody's got their own difference, but if it ends up with a kid stabbing someone to death, it's clearly the wrong way. Now, I think it's very obvious that this show is coming after those red pill kind of things. I will say I did watch a TikTok or two that were saying that it sounds like a lot of guys aren't quite understanding the message of the show, which, to be honest with you, now messes with my head, considering I am a man, and I'm wondering, did I miss the message of the show? Was there more to this that I didn't fully grasp? Now, one of the other things that I will bring up that I don't think most people even noticed at all, this show is also about parenting. It's very much about parenting. In fact, in the last episode, you really get to witness the breakdown of a husband and wife, a father and a mother, whose son is guilty. He's guilty. He's admitted it. He said, I you know what? I'm changing my plea to guilty, and I did this. And now the parents have to sit with the guilt of knowing that their child just did this. And there's a really great scene of them sitting together talking on a bed, and they're crying, and they're saying, did we do this? You know, could we have done more? Could we have done different? This is like, you know, my father raised me a certain way, and I did everything I could to not be like him. Did I fail? You know? Now, for me, I've already had strong opinions on parenting, considering I used to work in youth ministry. I worked in it for about 10 years. From the time that I was like 18 to the time I was 28. And I had a lot of parents who, if we're being absolutely honest, had no idea what they were doing. No idea. To the point where they were asking for parenting advice from a 19-year-old boy who has never had a girlfriend. No kids in my life, nothing. But yet, somehow, being that I happen to work with kids, I was more of an authority than they were. You know, they didn't know how to handle a kid who's having a rough time. And the shitty part about it was, you know, and this, of course, not every single time. I'll be generous. I'll say, like, you know, 85% of the time, a lot of these kids' problems could have just been solved by talking to them, listen to them, see what they actually have to say, rather than, you know, get frustrated, get angry with the bad behaviors that they might be doing or having, or their attitudes that they might be having. A lot of the times parents just don't listen at all, you know? And honestly, I think that is one of the nicer things about my own folks, is that they did listen a lot, you know? I mean, not saying I had a perfect upbringing or anything, but I think my parents did a pretty dang good job. Maybe that's why I have a good head on my shoulders. I don't know, you know? But it's alarming. It was alarming. I mean, over my 10 years of doing ministry, taken into consideration, it was like I'm working with groups that are roughly like averaging like 30 students a year. So say each student was part of one of those groups for 4 years at a time, so cycling in around 30-ish kids. I mean, how many kids is that? I don't know, somebody can do the math for me, but that's probably closing in 500-600 different students I've interacted with over my time in ministry. And there are so many parents who had no idea, you know? And it's frustrating. It's frustrating to watch. It's frustrating to see. I will say one of the things that I look forward to in life the most, and honestly, it's one of the things that also still makes me the saddest, considering I'm now 33, single, and no prospects in sight. is that I want to be a father. I want to be a husband. I want to be a good father. I want to be a good husband. And I feel like I've been training for years for it, you know? And watching people who have what I want not just squandering it sucks. It does. It really sucks to watch. And I think this show should be important to watch for, you know, kids. I think it's important for, you know, let's just stick to like high school, you know, maybe middle school might be a little too young, or, you know, go on your own judgments, but middle school, maybe high school, definitely. But I think parents should watch this show as well. You know, I think it's really, really important to see, because at the end of the day, it's like, you might not want to admit it, but you know, a lot of the times we are failing our kids, and that sucks. That's rough. But I think that the way that this show encapsulates that, encapsulates the grief of the family, you know, the mental gymnastics that the boy Jamie is going through the whole show, of trying to pretend like he didn't do it, and then, you know, finally coming to grips with the fact of like the situation he's in, that he's, you know, being held, and everybody knows he did it, he just won't admit it. Even just seeing how the sister interacts with the folks and how she's handling her brother doing all these things, it's really, really well done. And I highly, highly recommend you watch the show. I think you won't regret it. It's only 4 episodes long. It's like an hour-ish episode. Well worth it. And yeah, I sat and watched it with my mom, and we both enjoyed it. I thought it was really, really well done. So take that with a grain of salt. If you do happen to watch the show, if you've already watched the show, I would love to chat about it more. So go ahead and comment down below your thoughts, especially if you saw something I didn't. I'm very open to that. I'm open to new ideas. I'm open to seeing how other people think about it. You know, maybe I missed something. Honestly, I would love to hear what the ladies have to say about it too. I would genuinely be excited to hear what you guys have to say. Because it's important. It's important that we have these conversations, and it's important to be uncomfortable with them. And, you know, the only way that you can get past something that's uncomfortable is to face it. And I think it's time as a collective. And it's nice too that, you know, this was an English show. So it wasn't just us in America. But it is a problem here too. It is a problem here too. So it's nice that we can address this as a collective rather than it just being a group of people. It's something everybody needs to deal with. And yeah, let's talk. So let me know in the comments down below, guys. Thanks so much for watching. Again, go watch Adolescence. It's on Netflix. It's freaking awesome, and you won't regret it. Oh, actually, sorry. One last thing, and this is just something that I'm sure will piss off all the British people watching. But I think it was the 3rd episode. It's the episode with Jamie and the therapist who comes in. Who on earth eats a fucking pickle and cheese sandwich? This is not serious at all, but like, that sounds so gross. The therapist had her own lunch, which was a pickle and cheese sandwich, and she brought half of it for him to eat. And then he's like, oh, I don't like it because it's got pickles in it. And I'm like, oh, that just sounds gnarly. That sounds so gross. So, I don't know. Is that really a thing? If any British people are watching, let me know. Sorry, I wanted to put that in earlier before I got serious, and I totally forgot about it, so that's why I'm throwing it in at the end. But yeah, let me know. All right, guys, I love you all. Stay aggressively positive, and we will catch you on the next one. All right, love you. Bye. Mwah.